Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unapologetics. I'm just letting you know, I know the audio is terrible here, but just it's about to get better in a couple seconds. I just wanted to introduce this episode as part two of my conversation with Elliot about Christian nationalism as the case is made by Robert Jeffress. So, without further ado, here is the second part of the episode of my conversation with Elliot, or Secular Rarity, about Christian nationalism. Here we go.
Exactly it's amazing how somebody can be so wrong. It really,
Yeah.
really is. And he's about to do it even more, people. It's really great. It's fascinating. Like
It,
if you think this has been ridiculous thus far, keep watching.
yeah, okay, yeah, and one thing, it reminds me of like those arguments where you could totally tell that this is only convincing to somebody who's obviously already believing all this shit,
Yes.
right? Like the
Yes.
purpose isn't to convince somebody that doesn't know. The purpose is to reinforce what people already want to believe in the first place.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That
And
seems
it is cherry picking stuff so that people can confirm their biases and quickly cite stuff to people where they are incapable of looking it up
right.
and getting the true information. You know, this is what a lot of the religious apologists do. They give you this one thing and then you just like run with it, and then 10 years down the road you finally figure out, oh, all of that is made up. Actually, like all of
Yeah,
that is made up, and what you know about this is just false.
yeah, because
So
they're religious people. They wouldn't lie. They're
right.
real. They're good men. They're good
we
Christian
we
people.
have
You know,
we have no documentation to support religious people lying. I
ever.
think that,
Yeah.
yeah, I stand by that.
You know?
Yeah.
And if you don't believe it, it's because they magically something,
That's right. It's the
happened.
devil. It's the devil tricking you.
Jeez. So this one says early court rulings. Consider what early court rulings said about the relationship between government and Christianity in countless cases during the first 140 years of our nation. The judiciary reaffirmed. I always sound drunk when you say judiciary.
Oh, it's a weird
Um,
word.
reaffirmed our country's Christian foundation and even encouraged government support of the Christian faith.
Yeah, this is just,
Okay.
I think what's worth pointing out here is a couple of things. Real quick. One, like, we have done things incorrect in the past, and you don't get to point to the incorrect things in the past and say, like, oh, but look at it then. Like, for instance, there are court cases that still exist in the Library of Congress because they are a record, where our Supreme Court at one time literally looked at human beings and said, oh, because you're dark, you're property. Those are court cases, people. So don't forget that we fuck up. That's deeply, deeply important. And the point is to correct those mistakes. Okay.
Right.
Another thing that's important is,
Our
like,
current situation with the Supreme Court.
exactly the current situation. And to also, I've noticed these polls, and I just am happy about this. More and more people are starting to not give the Supreme Court such an intense reverence and so forth, as if they are fucking gods. And we need to remember that, people. The Supreme Court is an accountable branch of our government. Okay. So yeah, they're not just gods who get to do whatever the fuck they want, and they don't just get to, like, decide things. Okay, that's not how our government is supposed to be run. So stop giving a shit so much about the Supreme Court. And then finally, the concept of, like, the Christian Foundation. Again, really, what these people are saying is so broad and watered down as to not be in any way, shape, or form a point for this Bobby guy. But I would like to point out that I do really dislike when both really scientifically minded people and legal minded people say these flowery words and these vague, like, euphemisms and stuff, because then motherfuckers like this take it and run with it. So when a goddamn physicist goes out there and says the word about divine, even if they give 30 minutes of context before and after, the hardcore religious will completely discount everything else and just latch on to that word. So, to my very smart very, very well trained, scientific, legal, academic minded folks out there, please, for fuck's sake, stop using these flowery words. Just use
Seriously.
the real words and explain them to people. We have better words already. Please stop doing it, because you're giving ammo to assholes who are fighting to make your life worse. So
Yeah.
that's my plea.
It's like using the word spiritual in
Yes,
physics and stuff. And yeah. And then they're like, see, Deepak Chopra is right. I knew it. I told
exactly. And
you,
it's
know?
just like, oh my gosh, again, like you have these people that say that casually and colloquially, and it's like he doesn't in any way, shape, or form mean like ghosts, but he's using the word spirit right here to get across this point. But just don't use the word spirit. Use another word. Take 5 extra seconds and figure out it. Go get a fucking
Essence.
thesaurus.
Just say essence. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So, right. Consider what early court rulings say about the relationship between. Oh, did I already read that?
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on the one.
What? Right. Okay. Not, so this is 1799. In the case of Runkle, I like that word.
I know.
Uh, v. Weinmiller, uh, the Supreme Court of Maryland. I was going to say Maryland because that's just how I
Uh-huh.
was pronouncing things in
Mhm.
that little line. Said in this decision, by our form of government, the Christian religion is the established religion, and all sects and denominations of Christians are placed upon the same equal footing and are equally entitled to protection in their religious liberty.
So here we go. Once again, it's fascinating to me how he is twisting this scenario to be something particularly strange, because the way he is laying this out again is very confusing, especially with the actual context of what's going on. What happened was basically there was a dude. He was going to be a minister again. This church was like, oh shit, no, bro, you're not our denomination, so we're not going to do that. We're going to kick you out. Ultimately, the Supreme Court would rule, hey, no, because all sects and denominations of Christians are placed upon the same equal footing and are equally entitled to protection in their religious liberty. What he said at the beginning, by our form of government, the Christian religion is the established religion, has 2 important contexts to it. One, Thomas Jefferson explicitly disagreed with this, that we have record, which again is baffling to me why the fuck he said that thing earlier about old Tommy J. I don't understand. I don't understand why he said that, because Thomas Jefferson explicitly disagreed with that sentiment, okay, from the Supreme Court justice at the time. Now, Joseph Story also gives us context as to what he is explaining about there. And what he is explaining about there is that Christianity as a whole is something that is very much commonplace in our government. It is very much a part of our culture, especially at the time. That's what he's saying. When he says the words, the Christian religion is the established religion, it's that shitty, flowery language I was just pissed about, folks. And that's why I hate it, because this is what people do. But again, all of that is very well documented. And if you just go look up this case, you will very easily find all of this explanation. So I don't know how he missed it, unless it's purposeful, because it is so obvious that nothing that he is presenting here is in any way, shape, or form a point for his side. But yeah, again, it's fascinating. Because I thought some of this rang familiar to me, and I was like, yeah, but that seems weird. And so I looked it up, and it was like, oh yeah, no, this guy is just completely fucking wrong. He's just wrong about this entire context, because he picks out that one fucking line, which again debunks something that he said earlier in this article, and is like one of the smallest aspects of this case. It is one of the smallest, least interesting aspects of this case, and he just focuses in on it because it says the one couple of words that he likes.
Does he? Did he mean like the majority of the people? That's like what he's saying. Like
Basically,
he's saying, like, hey,
yes.
we could all at least
Basically,
have the common
basically
ground
it
in
would
Christianity.
basically it would be as if he said like Like, yeah, it be basically as if he said, like, well, so like by the way that we construct our government, Christians make up the majority of it. Like
Right.
that's really what he's saying. And again, he clarifies that. He
Yeah.
clarifies that.
It's a
Like
later.
it's
Uh,
so weird. And again, it also explicitly Jefferson came out and said, I disagree with this first part about Christianity being the established religion. And then,
oh
so
no.
I, yeah. So
Yeah.
again, I don't know
Because
why. I
that's
don't
so
know why
funny.
he's bringing this up. It's confusing. The next one is also weird. The next one is also weird. I
So,
just,
the Holy Trinity, right? That's where we're
yep,
at.
yep. The Holy
Okay.
Trinity. Uh huh.
1892. Okay, so that was so nearly 100 years later, the United States Supreme Court reaffirmed our nation's Christian foundation in Church of the Holy Trinity versus the United States in 1892. In this ruling, the Supreme Court declared no purpose of action against religion can be imputed to any legislation, state or national. National because what state or national is that? Am I
Mm-hmm.
saying that wrong? Anyway.
No, you're it's an old usage of the word national, as in like somebody that is born in the nation, a national.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like,
It's
what national?
it's
What a
yeah,
national
it's basically
because
saying
you can't
like
have a
citizen. Like
you can't have national becauses over here. Like that's just making
old English sucks, man.
okay. This is a religious people. Okay, so
Okay. So this is a fascinatingly important case, and here's why. Because Christian nationalists are dickheads about it. And again, we have flowery language that, while interpreted later on and clarified by the individual who made it, they will forever completely not give a shit about it. Okay. So, what this case was about was a church in the United States was trying to bring over a pastor from another country. Okay. And they were trying to get the proper documentation from the federal government to allow this non US citizen to come live and work in our country. That was something that this is something that is very important for throughout our entire country, especially right at the beginning, because one of the big things the founding fathers were concerned about was that somebody who was not truly American, not born in the country, not lived here for a very long time, doesn't hold the same ideals of liberty and freedom of expression and stuff, that they would come over and try to subvert our government essentially as agents of the UK and other countries that knew that we were very fragile at the time. So our government puts in place this very explicit this very explicit understanding that you're not allowed to just go out and just bring people from other countries over to do work for you and shit, right?
okay.
Here's the thing though. The Supreme Court ultimately ruled that kind of seems particularly contrary to the way that Congress has continued to conduct itself because of a bunch of different things that we can point to, right? So basically what the Supreme Court was saying in this case was it seems contrary to the intent of the law that Congress passed to explicitly bar religious individuals in this instance. So basically they're saying, hey, we know what the words of the law say, but we're going to imbue our own meaning on this based on the clear practices of the Congress, right? So this is where we start getting into judicial interpretation. Again, which this other aspect of it really makes me confused as to why he brought this up. This is something that somebody like Antonin Scalia, a hardcore Christian right individual, would completely disagree with. This is completely contrary to what this individual, Bobby Jeff, whatever, would want out of this. This is the activist judges that are making laws through their opinions and stuff. Okay, but again, what is super another fascinating little history of this, another fascinating little bit context here. Guess who comes out and clarifies? This exact dickhead comes out and clarifies not only that statement, but the statement that he said in the decision about us being a Christian nation. He explicitly comes out in a 1905 book titled "The United States a Christian Nation," and he writes, "But in what sense can it be called a Christian nation? Not in the sense that Christianity is the established religion or that people are in any matter compelled to support it. On the contrary, the Constitution specifically provides that the Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Neither is it Christian in the sense that all of its citizens are either in fact or in name Christian."
So
On
it's
the
not either of the things that usually would be. So how did he?
In fact, it goes on to say, in fact, the government as a legal organization is independent of all religions. Nevertheless, I'll give you the final context, people, because again, I could just always cut all this off and make it look even better for my side. But giving you the actual truth around this BS that this guy is spouting still works in my favor. That's what I'm saying. Nevertheless, we constantly speak of this republic as a Christian nation. In fact, as the leading Christian nation of the world. This popular use of the term certainly has significance. It is not a mere creation of the imagination. It is not a term of derision, but has substantial basis, one which justifies its use. Again, he does technically say those words, but the entire clarification that he gives waters this down to such a degree that once again, brother, I am baffled that this asshole used this. I am baffled by it. So I don't know. We just have to keep going, but it's very confusing that he pointed this one out. Because again, the entire context is just outright wrong.
Right. That's insane. Oh man, I love it. It's crazy. So this one's the People versus Ruggles.
This is a fun one too.
In the decision of the People versus Ruggles, 1811, the Chief Justice of New York Supreme Court affirmed, "Nor are we bound by any expression in the Constitution, as some have strangely supposed, either not to punish at all or to punish indiscriminately the like attacks upon the religion of Muhammad, Muslims, and of the Grand Lama, i.e., the Buddhists. And for this plain reason, the case assumes that we are a Christian people and the morality of the country is deeply engrafted upon Christianity and not upon the doctrines of worship of those imposters, i.e., false religions like Islam and Buddhism."
So I'd like to point everybody back to my previous statement about how we get things wrong in the past, and pointing back to those wrong things is not a justification. But I will now go on to explain the rest of this context, which is this was the first time in United States history that a human being was convicted of blasphemy charges. So the context behind this is one of disgusting toxicity from religion, okay? Blasphemy laws are an absolute fucking joke. Blasphemy is not a crime. It does not in any way, shape, or form harm anybody. It only harms their fake God, okay? So, which is to say it doesn't. So, here's why I'm confused about this. Here's why I'm confused about why he brought this up. Well, first off, I do think it's worth pointing this out. Our friend Mr. Ruggles was convicted for stating that, quote, "Jesus Christ was a bastard and his mother must be a whore." So thank you, Mr. Ruggles. I appreciate your work. And yeah, Jefferson Wood. You're very right. Tommy J. Yeah. But here's what's fascinating about this case. Couple of different aspects. So again, one, it's the first time in United States history that we convicted somebody of blasphemy, which is disgusting and fucked up. And there are many countries around the world right now that still have blasphemy laws on the books, and all of them should be gotten rid of. Now that I've said that, I will now tell you that Kent, our lovely fellow here who is talking about who's bringing this case, right? He believed that the the Constitution of New York provided free exercise and enjoyment of religious profession and worship without discrimination or preference. So he agreed to all of that. What he didn't like, though, was that Ruggles was saying bad shit about Christians. Okay. And the ultimate decision will come down with this quote as one of the main reference points as to argue why it was okay to blaspheme Muslims, the Islamic faith or the Buddhist faith, because they are not established throughout the society and culture like Christianity is. See, basically what they were saying is the same thing that many hardcore Islamists in Pakistan are saying right now, which is if you say bad things about Muhammad, that will make us also sad that we have to kill you in the streets. That's the argument. That's disgusting and nonsensical. Here's why, once again, I'm confused as to why this was being used. Because this particular case is explicitly cited multiple times afterwards as being flat fucking wrong, as being found incorrectly. That is how this case is known and used throughout history. So I don't know why he's bringing it up for this weird point. Again, it's just confusing. It's just confusing why he's bringing it up, because none of the things that he thinks it's saying is what it's saying. And the actual things that it's saying are completely against and like the ramifications of it. Again, this is commonly cited as a case that's like, oh yeah, that's one we got it wrong in. Like, we did a bad job then. Thank fuck we're doing better. So
Right.
once again, folks, if you are concerned that this guy will get anything correct, please do not hold your breath. You have no reason to be scared. It will all be just this bad.
It's like exactly. Oh my god, that's insane. So this is Vidal versus Gerard's Executioners, 1844. The case of Vidal versus Gerard's Executioners is interesting. The Supreme Court said, why may not the Bible, and especially the New Testament, without note or comment, be read and taught as a divine revelation in the college? Its general precepts expounded, its evidences explained, and its glorious principles of morality inculcated. Inculcated.
Yeah. Like just like to bring into form and like to make happen. And so basically he's saying like wouldn't that just make everybody just have all these glorious principles and be super duper moral and stuff?
Okay. So, likewise, the court ruled that other religions should not be taught. It is unnecessary for us, however, to consider what would be the legal effect of a device in Pennsylvania for the establishment of a school or college, for the propagation of Judaism or deism, or any other form of infidelity. Such a case is not to be presumed to exist in a Christian country.
So again, I'm confused why he's bringing this up, because it again just doesn't say anything that he thinks it does. So the context of this case is that this guy Gerard, he died. And when he died, he had a shit ton of money and no family to give it to. And in his will, he said, I want this money to go to a school that gets built. And one of my specific provisions is I do not want clergy members to be hired as teachers in a public school. Okay? That's what the fella did. Guy died, and after his death, in the legal document of what to do with his shit, it was build a public school, don't hire clergy. So here's what's fascinating about what he decided to pull out for this. He didn't mention that the Supreme Court upheld the right. He doesn't mention that. The Supreme Court sided with Girard here. They sided with the man that said, do not hire clergy at my school. I'm giving the money for it. It's a public school. Don't hire clergy there. Okay? The Supreme Court upheld that. And the first little quote that he uses just does not at all say the thing that he's thinking it does. He's trying to present the first case of why may not the Bible and especially the New Testament without note or comment be read and taught as a divine revelation in the college. He's using that as if to say the Supreme Court at the time was saying, hell yes, we should be doing this. But in fact, what the Supreme Court was saying, what the Chief Justice was writing in his assent to this case, was that the argument from Vidal basically said, if we don't hire clergy, how will our children know good morals without learning them? And the Supreme Court Justice is saying, why can't we still teach good morals without it being a clergyman? That's what he's saying here. He's saying that just because clergy members are not going to be staff does not mean that the good things that are found in religion can't be inculcated into the morality of these children. That's what he's saying here, okay? Now, he also goes a little bit farther so as to make the case that Christianity is involved in common law in the United States. Common law is this just long-standing tradition of, hey, this is how court stuff has been done for a really long time, dating back to like really merry old England and shit. So again, what he is saying here in the shit flowery language that I hate, but what he is actually saying there is, yes, a shit ton of principles that are good and found within the Bible are a part of our system of laws. And again, yes, that is true, but that is true for Hinduism, that is true for Buddhism, that is true for Judaism, that is true for Islam. It is true for all of these because it's not hard to get some things right. It would be fascinating if people throughout the centuries didn't get things right, like, hey, don't go kill your neighbor and steal their cattle, because then you wouldn't have a society to pass on the fucking rules to. So again, that's what he's saying in that first quote. Now, here's what he's saying in the second quote, which is even better because he uses this as an opportunity to attack these other religions. So he literally starts this quote with, likewise, the court ruled that other religions should not be taught. No, that is not in the fucking slightest what this ruling is saying. What he is saying here, it is unnecessary for us, however, to consider what would be the legal effect of this device for the establishment of another school in these forms, okay? What he is saying is the case before us right now is very narrowly focused. And if the court were to make a decision on what would happen about an establishment of a school or college for propagating Judaism or deism, that would be inappropriate based on the facts of the case in front of us.
Yeah.
And this last little bit that he says, such a case is not to be presumed to exist in a Christian country. Again, what he is saying there is actually we all kind of know this probably ain't going to be a thing we have to worry about. We don't have a lot of Jews or deists, right? That's what
Right.
he's saying. He's saying
Okay.
he is saying that the doll wants us to go further, but doing so would be improper and a violation of our duties. And let's be honest, probably not something we're going to have to deal with. So again, he
Okay.
has
Yeah.
completely twisted everything about this. And I'm not making any of this up. You just go type in the fucking case onto Google, you guys. And the very first thing is just this long, in-depth discussion of this and very clearly lays out all of this. It's like, yeah, that's what he technically said, but like he explains more, and this is what he's getting at, and this particular thing is actually referencing this. So it's at this point in the article I was like, okay, he has to knowingly be doing this,
There's
because
no other way. Yeah.
those two quotes are well explained, and for him to use them like this and say that this is what they're actually meaning is again, it there's no way. If you just go look up those quotes, you will find them, and you will find an explanation. So he has to know. He has to know that.
It's
Like,
yeah, it's just the words. He doesn't care. It's the same way with the Bible, you know what I mean? They're like, because they do like the same thing with the Bible. Like, that's
mhm,
well, I
mhm,
know that's what it says, but that's not what it means. Okay.
mhm.
It means to not, whatever, it means you don't have to do works. Okay. That's just the fruit. But it says to look for the fruit, which would be the works. It's shit. Hold on, we're going back and forth.
Some
It's
of this
like,
doesn't make sense. I swear it does. No, it's right. Hang on. Eat a cracker real quick. Eat a cracker,
yeah.
drink some
uh,
juice. You'll feel the Holy Spirit.
Faith through works. No, I mean not through fuck. Oh Jesus. So this is part three. We'll do like one more section and then we'll wrap it after that. This like
Okay,
'cause I
let
gotta
me see if I can pick which one I think is
oh yeah.
is the one like that might be the best.
These are a lot.
Um okay,
Yeah.
let's do the last one, the Stone v. Graham, because I think that one's so. The other ones are really really quick. Because for instance, like I can just say a couple of these. What he's trying to do is he's trying to give you the impression that the court has had some like weird fight against Christianity or something, but again, he obfuscates all these things. In one of them he says like, oh, the court just didn't let people say this nice little poem, but the poem was explicitly crafted by individuals who admitted as such to changing the words so that it didn't say God. So like it's blatant what these people are doing, and the court called them out on it and was like, "Hey man, look, like the way the law is really supposed to be practiced is like you're not supposed to have the public government, the public sphere be something that's pushing a religion." And they're like, "Well, it's not pushing a religion." And they're like, "Yeah, but see, like you kept the same fucking prayer. You just took out the word God. And so you are really still just trying to push your religion." And the people were like, "Well, I mean, kinda." And the court was like, "Yeah, that's fucking wrong." So like
So
that's
exactly the same as today. That's what you're
yeah,
saying.
exactly. Except for some, yeah, except for a couple of things. But yeah, like, and I'll reference that with this last one. But yeah, like it's so it's so weird that he cites these other cases, because again, they are explicit examples of somebody trying to go around what the established law is, so as to push their religion, and the people are explicit about it. So again, I'm surprised that he picked these. I'm surprised that he picked these cases.
It reminds me of the we at the meetings or whatever, we're like, oh no, at school, that's right. They're like, we're gonna give a minute of
Oh yeah.
meditation
Yes.
before
Yes.
the class starts or whatever. So you can have 1 minute and anybody can say or think whatever they want in that minute. But you just do what you think is right.
Right. And
You know,
it's like uh, people have such a short-term memory on stuff. So many of the private Christian schools in the United States, especially on the Eastern Coast, you guys, go look up when they were founded. Go look up when they were founded, and go look up some of the people that were talking about this at the time. It's not a coincidence that they were founded right as desegregation was happening. They weren't hiding it back then. They explicitly were saying, we're trying to get our good Christian white kids away from these black kids. So, like, this again, they tell us that. And then, like, a decade goes by, and then people are like, oh shit, this is a racist institution. And they're like, no, not at all. We love Jesus. Why would you think racism? Just like for years and years and years, they do this thing where they're like, you gotta love Jesus, you gotta love Jesus, you gotta love Jesus. And then they're like, you can't say Jesus. And they're like, you gotta love, him. You gotta love the divine one,
Man
and it's like, you're
upstairs.
saying the same thing. You're saying the same thing.
And all the atheists are like, oh, fuck. So we're just like, well, you can love a doorknob. Okay.
Yeah, like, fuck you, man.
Oh, God. Okay. So this one's Stone v. Graham, 1980.
He says this is one of the most outlandish applications of the doctrine. This one is amazing. Okay. And that's why I said we should end on this one, because it is ridiculous. The fact that he uses the word outlandish, again, I don't know if he knows what that word means. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why he's presenting this one.
It's stuff that you would do out to sea because you're not
That's
on the
right.
land.
You're outlandish.
Outlandish.
That's good. That's good. That's smart. I like that. I like that. It's a really boating
nautical,
term.
nautical thing. But so perhaps one of the most outlandish applications of the doctrine of separation of church and state occurred in 1980. Schools in Kentucky had copies of the Ten Commandments posted in their hallways, paid for with private donations. Each copy had a disclaimer at the bottom saying, the secular application of the Ten Commandments is clearly seen in its adoption at the fundamental legal code of Western civilization and the common law of the United States.
I just pause real quick, 2 quick things, and then I'll let you get to that, and then I'll go on my rant. But first off, I would like to point this out. That statement is wrong. It's just incorrect. It is flat out incorrect. Okay. It is just demonstrably untrue. In its yes. You have been known to love some doorknobs. But in the broad sense that we have touched on multiple times in these flowery languages, okay, there are some basic things in the Ten Commandments that in general many governments have been like, yeah, that's a good thing. Like, for instance, don't go around murdering people. That's not okay. Again, the fact that the Ten Commandments got that right is honestly, it is absolutely nothing. It would be more surprising that they didn't get it right. Okay. And then here's the second thing I want to say, which is violating federal law and then putting a disclaimer that basically tries to make it seem like you're not violating federal law does not mean shit. You don't just get to walk up to a building, light it on fire, and then just post a little sticky note next to it that says, this isn't arson. That's not how it fucking works. It doesn't make any sense. So I just wanted to point that out. He says that as if like, oh, this made it all okay. Like they were clearly violating federal law, but they had this little disclaimer at the bottom that said they weren't. Like,
yeah, it reminds me of like what turned into like the salts or whatever, the whatever it was, the stuff that they smoke, and it used to be it was they go like, oh, this is incense. You're gonna sell it as incense. Right. But it looked like it was just like weed. Like it was this little, obviously you're supposed to stick it in a pipe and smoke it. But they're like, hey, but that label's there. So I don't know why we put all those chemicals in it that make you high. That's just,
I have no idea. Yeah. Hey, look, hey, if that happens to you, man, hey, that happens to you. But all I know is it makes my bathroom smell great. You know,
it smells good.
Like, yeah.
It is literally the same tactic, man.
It's so stupid. Try that next time you get arrested, folks. Just be like, nah, officer, I swear, I didn't murder this guy. Like, look, I wrote it right there. Like, this is not murder.
This is,
there you go.
It's a disclaimer,
It's fine.
Jesus. Oh, that's awesome. wait.
The Supreme Court
Okay.
declared.
The Supreme Court declared if the posted copies of the Ten Commandments are to have any effect at all, it will be to induce the school children to read, meditate upon, perhaps to venerate and obey the Ten Commandments. However, okay, desirable this might be as a matter of private devotion, it is not a permissible state objective under the establishment clause of the First Amendment.
Right.
Okay,
So
so yeah,
the context here is there was a person who had a lot of money who got these very nice printed 10 commandments and then gave them to all the public schools in Kentucky and said, please post this. It's so pretty. And the Supreme Court said, hey, nobody gets to do that with their religion. That's not okay. Nobody gets to do that because if the school, a public entity, an authoritative public entity, if they are posting these religious messagings, it is in effect allowing and explicitly stating that they are preferencing one religion over the other. It is, in fact, in practice, pushing religion on people. Okay. That is what this is saying. So,
yeah. I mean, it's almost like if like imagine them dealing with a Muslim teacher who was like, "Hey, we're going to use these surahs for spelling. They're all spelled correctly. We're going to use it for spelling. Now read
right,
the surah and then spell out the words, whatever." They would
right.
freaking lose their damn minds, man. Like,
Exactly. And that's the whole point is that the idea of separation of church and state is explicitly so that all of the big baddies that every religious person has in their mind, that is really at the end of the day just other devout religious people, because that's the fucking game they all play. The Christians are running around constantly freaking out about the devil and all the Muslims and Jews around them, and the Muslims and the Jews feel the same way about the Christians. So like they're all in that nonsensical fairy tale world, okay? And so let me play upon your fears here for a second, Christian nationalists. Get ready. Get ready. Because if you disagree with this ruling, guess who gets to come in tomorrow? The devout Muslim. And they're going to be teaching your kids how to pray 5 times a day. Get ready. Get ready to have kids openly taking the Shahada in public. You know what? Taking the Shahada with what do you call this? Oh my gosh, with direction and explicit encouragement from public school officials. Like, for instance, the recent Supreme Court case that gave the authority to a public school coach to hold prayer vigils in the middle of the freaking field, forcing people to accept and promote his specific religious interpretation. Something that one of our Supreme Court justices in her dissent explicitly points out: the Supreme Court fabricated details, outright made up facts for the case so that they could get it pushed their way. So be prepared. Be prepared, you Christian nationalists, because that's what's coming next. And I am super excited to see every single public school soon having a very large Baphomet statue put there by the Satanic Temple. I am so proud that my Christian nationalist friends out there are joining hand in hand in me as we put up statues of Buddha, statues of Baphomet. I mean, abso-freaking-lutely everything. So yeah,
yeah.
like I feel like that one really just it was amazing that he chose to end on such a strong point, in my opinion. But again, it's a strong point in the opposite direction
Against him. Yeah.
Yes,
I feel like he forgot who was I don't know. I mean, but it's so weird because it's like I said, like the people that are gonna read this and be convinced by it are the people that already think this shit anyway. It's
Yes.
not meant to, it's not like the what is it, the mything in action, what no, not mything in action, I'm sorry, the founding myth.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Why Christian nationalism. It's not like actually making a case, and actually breaking down all the. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. I
Oh
pulled
yeah,
it
it's a
out. I
great
pulled
book.
it out just for this moment so that I could look cool like that.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I've been listening to it too, so I
Oh, it's
can't. I'm
great.
not going to pull it up and show you. That'd be weird, you know. But I could is my point. Okay, I
Yeah,
could,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm not going
No, no,
to.
no. I get that. I
Um,
get that. Yes.
but yeah, and so he's actually making a case. This dude's just trying to just reinforce. It's the same thing that propaganda does. It's just like
Right.
when they say stuff that doesn't really. It's just like when somebody says, "Yeah," and they'd have to pee in a bathroom next to my daughter, and you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, yeah, but you got it. You're supposed to keep. You need to make a case why that's not.
Right. Right.
Like you can just say
You
that,
have to
but
keep explaining like why is that problematic, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like
It again, it start to finish, that whole article is just again, it is either he is super, super uninformed. Like, and that totally is possible, that he just genuinely has no idea like about anything that he cited, and like somebody just randomly gave him those quotes and was like, yeah, this is real, like it's a thing. Or or in the process of compiling these citations, he explicitly ignored all of this stuff that was against him, like, because every single one of those, you guys, every single freaking one of those, I showed you how wrong he is on all of it, and it took me no time. It took no effort. Like, Brent sent this article to me like just a few hours before we started, and I'll be honest, because it makes me look like a schmuck, but it makes him look worse. I didn't even read it for like 2 or 3 hours. Like 2 hours went by. I just like looked at it and was like, yeah, okay, we haven't done that one before. And then just like went back to sleep for a bit. And then in like 30 minutes was able to compile all of this.
it's just,
It's fascinating. It's fascinating how completely, again, either misinformed or just flat out dishonest this guy is. I
yeah.
just
They're always banking on their audience not looking anything up,
yes.
and they're always right.
Yes. Yes.
Unfortunately.
Time after freaking time. Like, oh my gosh. It's
Oh,
just it's so confusing how much people actively just don't want to be educated on just the most basic stuff. It just takes like 5 extra seconds. It's not that hard. And again,
it
I was
it'd
blown
make
away.
it'd make their whole worldview crumble. So they
Well, it
have to,
would.
they'd rather feel right than be right. You know what I
There's a
mean?
point.
That's but well,
Well,
thank you so much, Elliot,
yeah.
for coming on and hanging out. That was awesome. That
This
was a
was
good one.
fun,
I
man.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I have a
I
good
gotta
time. I
come.
always love hanging out. So, and
Hell yeah.
I don't always, like I said, I think last time I was on, I don't always get to go through stuff like this. With a lot of the stuff that I do. And so it's great to have, these articles or videos or something to kind of tear down, because yeah, seriously, as much fun as we are having people, and as good of a time as we are, like, we're both in places where we have, firsthand seen the effects of what this toxic ideology, is trying to get done. So let's not forget that this is actually a very serious and gross movement of people that are actively trying to push completely un-American and harmful policies. So yeah,
Absolutely.
go fucking vote, and not for those people,
Yeah,
because I
please.
can say
And call you.
that.
And if you see something wrong, call your governor or something, or go to school board meetings.
Yep.
You might get hurt and beat
Yeah.
up, but you should,
Yeah. Be safe.
you still should go.
Yeah.
But well, thanks again for coming on, man. We so we always do the sign off, where we say who we're gonna say fuck off to, and then we try to say fuck off together.
Nice.
So, what do we say to the haters, discriminators, and masturbator shamers?
Fuck
Fuck
off.
off. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for watching.